Hi, guys. Hi, G. How are you, babe? You look so pretty today. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Great.
I just have
Great.
my headset on.
Awesome. We'll get started in just a minute. Sue, it is so great to see you. I don't know if she can hear me. Hi. Oh, this is great to see your face. What a lovely surprise. How can you hop on with your audio and tell me how you're doing?
I think I'm on.
There you
Okay. There I am. Oh, I'm looking forward to those F-bombs.
are. Fuck that. Yeah. Oh my God.
They don't have the same effect when you say them by yourself.
No, they don't. They don't. Oh my gosh, this is so great. Hi, Mike. Oh, Will. Oh my gosh. Hi, Will. Oh, what a great, yeah, these are so, like, these surprises. I love this.
One of the
I know.
Zoom
Yeah.
bomb your call.
The first thing you hear is, fuck that. What do you got? Typical Nicole. Oh my gosh. Let's see. I think people are just going to join. Usually when I do Zoom meetings, we got the waiting room and all that. So Tia tried to adjust it so that people could just join, but I think I still have to have the power to do that. So they'll jump in. Mike, have you ever done that where they just join in? Or do you have to always admit them?
Yeah, it's not the greatest idea.
We don't want the whole world on here.
Yeah, the waiting room's probably a good idea.
Well, unless you've been living under a rock, 2020 probably is not your most favorite year ever. And yeah, I know. Since the beginning, for me anyway, and I guess I'm calling the beginning like March. Like I keep thinking it's like Easter and not Thanksgiving. It's bizarre, this like time warp that we've been in. But since the beginning, I really made a commitment, like a vow to myself, to find every possible silver lining, to really try to find the blessings everywhere, all the time. And it hasn't always been easy. In the beginning, it was a lot. I wouldn't say it was harder. It was just that I was a lot more emotional. And I've gone through a lot of phases. I've gone through a lot of ups and downs and all rounds like we all have. But one of the things I really want to talk to you guys about is how can we take where we are and all that we've been through and all of the separation and the disconnection and the arguing and the who's right, who's wrong, what to listen to, what not to listen to, and remember at the end of the day that we're more alike than different, that we have more in common than not, and that, around the time that like the fires, because it was like, it didn't feel like, and it's still going on, but it felt for a while like the world was just ending. Like what more? I remember people saying like, what else can happen? And it's like, she's not done yet. 2020 isn't done yet. And she's a force to be reckoned with, clearly. And we'll talk at another call about, because I've been studying for many years astrology, and this was all written in the stars. And there's a big pivot that's about to happen in December. We have a huge solar eclipse And things are going to start to really shift at the end of December. But for now, how do we take all that has happened and all that we've been through and remember those simple things about how much we have in common, how much we love each other. And around the time of the fires, I really witnessed a tremendous amount of love and connection and kindness from our community. Because when things are tragic, like when shit gets real, we band together and we do good. We want to help. Like it's that feeling of like, you feel helpless when you can't do more, when we can't give more, when we can't show up and, you know. And so my like lesson at that time, which was a really interesting perspective shift, was, okay, if my neighbor's house was burning and they had 3 kids and 2 dogs and they were trapped, would I not go in and help them because they voted for somebody that I didn't vote for? Would I not go in there and grab them and pull them out if they had a different color skin or a different religion or philosophy, thought differently, you know, did that thing on social media that I didn't particularly agree with? Would I not help? And my answer was absolutely fucking not. I would do everything I could with my whole being to help another human, to help another life. I also had a lot of ahas around that time. I was lucky enough, you know, my family, everybody was safe. And, but I knew a lot of people who were very vulnerable and people who have lost everything. And what an amazing experience to look at that and go, okay, if you had 5 minutes to get out of your house, would you grab anything material? No. Like I would, the hearts that are beating and the, you know, the lives that are around us are everything. And that is all we need. And it's still what we have. With that said, I have lost a lot of friends. I have relationships that have, you know, gone away, dissipated for now, because I do believe that there is a huge amount of forgiveness that is we're being asked to do right now. And our word, I pick a word every month. My word this month was forgiving, but it's not like you would see it spelled out forgiving. It's for-giving, broken up into 2 words. When we can forgive, not forget, when we can forgive, then we remember who we really are, which is generosity, kindness, compassion, ways that we can give. But if we get caught, you guys, in the stories and the triggers and the separation, and there's so much of that, what was my main driving force behind getting off of social media months ago was to, and off completely. My husband will tell you that he's off completely, but he's still on Twitter. He's like, I'm trying, 1 step at a time, he says. But I, you know, I just think it's great. There's less arguing in my own household. There's less tension. There's less gossiping about who he said, she said. And it's been helpful for us and for me, because and you guys are all leaders too, but for me to be able to lead from a place of love and light, I have to filter what comes in. And I have been consistently flooding my brain with positive, with inspiration, with very little news of any kind. I have not found that very helpful. There's a lot of separation even in not in my family at home, but of my family of origin, you know, parents, grandparents, things like that. There's just difference of opinions, and it's hard. It's really hard. And also I believe that we will emerge stronger, better, greater, more loving, more kind, with less stuff. If you guys are writing, you know, I invite you, a lot of my students will, or when I do these calls, people will like jot down notes or whatever, but I want you to, this is my like theme for 2021, my prediction, let's call it, consciousness over currency. And that has helped me a lot, because I had my best fiscal year in 2019 that I've had in 10 years of business. Blew every other yoga studio out of the fucking water. Like, you would not believe, you guys, how amazing. And then what a turn. You know, I'll be lucky if I make $25 this year. So, but I also have invested my whole heart and soul into the souls that I've surrounded myself with. This is one of the things I want you guys to really, and you're doing it already because so many things have been stripped away, but our reality is shaped by several things, much of which is our personality. Our personality shapes our personal reality. Our personality is dictated and deemed by a lot of different things, much of which is our thinking. I'm going to make an assumption, you guys, on this call. I'm not big on assumptions, but I'm going to make an assumption that we're gathered here as, you know, wherever our minds are, there's, again, more alike than separate. But one of the things that I'm going to assume is that we can all agree that our thoughts in some way affect our world, our reality, our perception. And I'm assuming that. So from that place, then we can talk, because our, you know, what we do, you guys, is we have the wrong person in command. You know, our mind is not such a clean neighborhood all the time. It's not such a safe space. And so how do we drop, you know, we have a mind to discern, we have a mind to think, we need this, we need it sharp, you know, crystal sharp. And how can we drop into the better place to make decisions, which is in our heart? You know, the furthest distance we should have to travel for the right action decision is head to heart. But it's been hard this year to drop into that. It's been hard to not get angry, frustrated, you know, have disgust and disdain, to, you know, want to shut it off and run away. And those of us who are still here, like, I need you guys to hear this. You are not here, and you would not have survived all of this if there wasn't a higher purpose behind your life. If there wasn't a very real reason why you have made it this far. For you to become who you are meant to be, your life had to look exactly like it did, which is really fucking hard to hear. I didn't like that the first time I heard it, because I was like, you know what? How can you tell me that? How can I step into that? Like, what about the time that I was raped? What about the time that I lost this and that? What about the divorce? And every single thing for me had to happen just like that, for me to be the woman that I am now, and for me to step into who I am meant to become. So it starts here. And one of the books I want to recommend, one of my smaller tribes is reading right now, is Start Where You Are. It's by a woman named Pema Chodron. It's a book that I've given away a lot, and it's got some beautiful insights. Start Where You Are. So how can we begin to change the way that we see things, the way that we think, the way that we perceive? With all that said, how can we, in this time, this chaotic world, this world of uncertainty, which, by the way, newsflash, it's always been uncertain. Nothing's ever been guaranteed. Tomorrow is not promised, you know. There's only 2 days. This is not one of the things that's on my wall at home. There's only 2 days that do not matter. It's the Dalai Lama. 2 days that do not matter. One is called yesterday. The other one is called tomorrow. Like, this is it right here. Getting present, being present. And in the present moment, all is well. You know, there is more for us to be here right now, you guys. There is more right with us than wrong with us. If you're breathing, there's more right with you than wrong with you. And so the highest vibration thought that we can have is gratitude. But here's what happens, you guys. We are creatures of habit. We are completely bound and tied oftentimes by our emotional state. Our emotional state is a set of memories that we have basically memorized that are our emotional set point. We all have something called an emotional set point, where you tend to live no matter what. And we can work with this. This can be shifted, but it takes work. We all think this is science, right? This is science. I interject a lot of, you know, it's science and spirituality like this for me all the time. But science will tell us that 70,000 up thoughts a day is what all of us have. How exhausting, number one, 70,000 plus. 90 to 95% of which are the exact same thoughts as yesterday. So if we're thinking the thoughts of, I am not enough, I am this, I am that, you know, things that are basically negative self-chatter, self-beat is what they're also called, then we're creating that. We literally are going to live, that's going to become our destiny, because that's the way the quantum field works. Like, you are acting as if, and you are living as if. And so the world is going to, literally the universe is going to prove you right. and it's going to hand you all of those things. So until we start changing the way, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. But this is not the easiest thing, because by the age of 35, you guys, it is said that we are so set in stone. You know, we have a set of beliefs, we have a set of circumstance, we have a family of origin, we have a money story, we have a body image story, we have a relationship story, and they are nearly set in stone, but we can work with them. It just takes work. And, you know, it's, I will tell you guys this, the work that I do on myself is exhausting. It's like overload sometimes, you know, self-improvement, I wouldn't call it self-help because there's nothing to help, but I am obsessed with being better, feeling better, living more optimally, helping more, giving more, and that I can't pour from an empty cup. You know, I just had this conversation with a client right before this who's really struggling in his life. And he's like, I don't, you know, he doesn't believe he has time for exercise, you know, self-care, but we need to understand that, like, we cannot be who we need to be unless we are whole, right? And we're whole and perfect from the moment before you took your first breath. That's a whole nother lecture. That's like, you know, and for me, even it goes beyond that, because we have life after life after life, but we're learning the same lessons over and over. So our life actually becomes our greatest curriculum, right? It is the thing to study. Is your there's something called, and you guys maybe have heard of this. It's that, you know, something called your shadow self. And when these are the parts of us that we are really kind of unwilling to feel, the things that we might even have shame around. Side note, there's no Sanskrit translation for the word shame. We made that up. So, you know, and really very little place for that at all in the world moving forward. You guys, you have nothing to be ashamed of. None of us do. But we, you know, so we have this set story and this, you know, this concept of who we are. And we have these core wounds. You know, I listed off a few of mine. I have a lot. But what we do when we do shadow work is we turn to, instead of letting that stalk us, you know, it's that part of you. Have you guys ever heard of, I thought I made it up years ago, but I did not. I can't take credit for it. It's called the imposter complex. And it's where you, I've felt this so many times in my life where, oh my God, somebody's going to discover, you know, you're going to be like discovered that you actually are not all of those things, and you don't know those things, and you know, and you're not worthy of that job. And you feel kind of like you're living falsely beyond your understanding. And that's a huge lie, because all of us are exactly where we are meant to be for a reason. And we are always ready. We're ready now. We've been ready forever. You have the degrees, you've done the study. There's nothing more to learn. In fact, when you come to class, when you listen to me, when you read the things, you are remembering. You're not learning anything. You're remembering who you are. So I'm obsessed with the movie Lion King. We could talk about that forever. It's like, it's the most beautiful spiritual story ever written, and it was done really well, remembering who we are. So these limiting self-beliefs, you guys, they're called mind traps. And I'll go over, there's 7 most common ones that I'm gonna list off for you. But first, we need to understand that this can change, this can shift, that we do have that potential, you know. And there is an exercise that we do to really get real with all this. There's an exercise that we do to notice how we talk to ourselves. And it's like, on your worst day, you know, what are some of the things that you say to yourself, and to write them out, you know. And it sucks, it's hard. It's like, you know, I'm to this, I'm to that, you know, it's body parts you're talking to, an image, and you know, how you show up in the world, you know, the things that you would really never literally say to another human. Because the exercise is to turn and face somebody and say those things to them. You're so fat, you're so stupid, you know, you're not, who do you think you are to be that? And you would never say that. I would never say those things to anybody else, not even to my worst enemy. So, but it's really an eye-opener, enlightening, when you realize how much time we waste. And guys, there ain't no time to waste anymore moving forward. So every time that we waste, moment that we waste in that negative self-chatter, that space of not being enough, is literally a waste of time. And so this consciousness over currency, because so many things have been lost. And everybody, again, I kind of started this with like, unless you've been under a rock, but you know, everybody is grieving something right now. Everybody's lost, big or small, but relationships, money, things, jobs, houses, you know, lives lost. And so the stages of grief are different for everybody. There is no timeline. There's no like, come on, you're not over that already. Like it's cyclical, you know, we don't go from one to the next, but we have to work through them, you know. And the first one is shock. I wrote these, this is like so good, you guys. I have it on my notes. So the first one is shock. And a lot of us felt that way in the beginning of like, wait, what? We have to stay home? There's this thing called this, you know, and like the shock of it all, right? And then the next one after that is anger, which a lot of us have experienced. Like I don't really, anger isn't like my thing, nor is fear, but I've experienced those two. You know, anger, you get really mad, you get really upset, frustrated, like just angry at the world or whatever it is, you know, and at the loss, you know, the shock of the death, and then why did this happen to me? Why were they taken so soon? And then a deep sadness follows. Like for some people it's depression. For some people, I can't get out of bed because so much tears. It's just this like heavy cloud, deep, deep sadness. It follows. And then from there, it's bargaining. Okay, this one is a little wild, but this is where it's like, whoever your spirit is, your spirit animal, your God, your higher power, the universe, whatever it is for you, we start bargaining with that. I will never do that again. That if you know, please God, if this one thing works out, I vow to. It's like, you know, and kind of putting that out into the world, this bargaining with spirit for a better world, for a better you, for a better version, for more things, whatever it is, that moving forward. And then the beautiful thing that ends up happening ultimately, and there's again no timeline, but there's an acceptance. An acceptance of what is, as is, that this is it. And then with the acceptance is the release. This is when really truly our resilience, our emotional resilience comes through. And we don't want to rush through those stages, but we do want to give honor to those, because this also really helps with assholes who you cross paths with. They're everywhere. But they may very well be in one of those stages. And we have no idea what everybody else is going through right now. We'd like to think we do, and we have similarities. Well, we don't know. We don't know what they're suffering from or with. And so and then there's one, you know, that I think could be, it's not traditionally in the list of stages of grief. But once we get to acceptance, then we can be in a space of creation. There's one question that we've been asking ourselves our whole life. It is the central theme, and it drives our choices. And it's this: what's next? What's next? And this is great, because for one reason, it helps us to think bigger, to want to create, to want to do, but guess what? When we're always living in what's next, what are we missing? What's now? If we're always striving, we never arrive. If we're always bargaining, moving forward, wanting more, you know, in the next moment, we're never in this moment. We're in tomorrow, we're not in today. And so a lot of moments get missed. Marianne Williamson said a quote that I love. She said, "I only have one regret, and it's every moment I did not spend with my son before he turned 5. And I was like, shit, I wish I would have heard that. Nina's 14 now. but really, it's like, you know, those of you who, I mean, you guys are the heroes of the world right now. Those of you who have gone through, and there's a lot of you on this call, who are raising small children in 2020. Like, cheers to you. It is hard. I'm going to drop this on you. This made me cry this morning. At least 5 times a day I cry. 1 in 4 young people since the beginning of the year, 1 in 4 has considered suicide. Like, this is collateral damage, you guys, is what I'm calling it, collateral damage. And so, first of all, like, like I said, kudos to you, all of you. But by you even logging on right now, like this is so amazing because you're just taking a little time today to hear something that might inspire you or might be bigger than what the media will tell you right now, you know? And I'm not gonna, there's no way I'm gonna vow to you guys, well, there's no politics, there's no, you know, I mean, I say the word COVID, but I mean, it is what it is. There's no opinions, there's no judgment, there's no separation, because to work with that word, forgiveness, to remember that we are more alike than separate, to have compassion for each other, because a lot of us are in those stages of grief right now, or we're moving through it, but we've all lost something that, you know, how can we want anybody to hurt? How can we want anybody to suffer? And there's going to be, you know, there are people who are continuing to suffer. And so, and just, you know, assuming that we're all healthy and vital and have so much to be grateful for, that is really what we shift into, you guys, is an attitude of gratitude. And to start our days like that. I had a practice that I threw out. Some of you, if you've streamed class or if you've taken class with me, just let me take that. Oh. Was that, and I try for this every morning. It's becoming a habit. I haven't missed very many days, but before I take off the sheets or get up out of bed, I start, it's a 4-step process. I start by taking a deep breath. And that's automatically like a game changer, you guys, because if you just, if we, you know, we're so mindless when it comes to how we breathe unless we're breathing together, you know? So that starts the day off right there. So that's the first thing. The second thing, still in bed, haven't got up yet. Second thing is find something you're grateful for. And usually it's the silliest thing. Like it'll be like my cat on my chest, or the, you know, that I opened my eyes this morning, or, you know, it's what the first thing that comes to mind is the right answer. You know, your cozy bed. It doesn't have to be big. It could be your children or your lover or whatever, but it's something small, something that comes to your mind first. That's the start. 2 steps. Third step, still not out of bed, is to set your intention for your day. Mine ends up being, it's very similar a lot. It's been kind of on loop, and that's to be, to have extra compassion. You know, sometimes I think, like I use the word patience a lot, kind, generous. That's like my big sankalpa. Sankalpa is a word that is your overarching intention. It's kind of like, you know, you've heard of Simon Sinek's Start With Why. It's like our why. It's our reason for being, and that's your sankalpa. So that's mine, it's generosity. So that's the third thing. And then you guys, then you can get up. So then you know, you take the blankets off, and then you put your feet on the ground, and you feel, you know, the texture underneath your feet. You feel the earth under your feet. This all is only, it takes a few seconds. And then you get up, and let me tell you, it's called attitude of mindfulness. And you just started your day like that. You know, we've all heard the suggestions and the stories of, or, you know, the journaling for your gratitude journal in the morning, you know, getting up and meditating. I've tried, it isn't a part of my daily life. I do meditate, but it's not first thing in the morning. And I find meditation for me is kind of woven throughout my day, that I try to be mindful in all things. And I definitely am meditating when I'm practicing and teaching. However, for me, that small little practice was something that was tangible, it was digestible, it was approachable. And I've shared with a lot of people who have done it, and it's helping. It just gets us in the right frame of mind, because to go back to our personality, which forms our personal reality, one of the crazy traps we get caught into, you guys, is doing the same thing every day. We're surrounded with the same people. We get out of bed the same way. We have the same cup of coffee in the same coffee mug in the same chair. We drive to work we brush your teeth with the same hand in the same position. You drive to work the same way, in the same car. You get to the same job. I mean, it could go all day with this. And guess what? That is setting us up for the same thoughts and feelings that we had yesterday. So it's small shifts that we can make that start to literally change our neuroplasticity, the way that you've heard neurons that fire together wire together. And we can, you know, take our mind to the gym. We can be smarter, stronger, mentally more resilient, but it takes doing things a little differently. I replaced the time that I was spending on Instagram with reading a book or listening to a podcast, or, you know, finding something that inspires me. And that has helped a lot. It's the information that you're taking in, you guys. And this is why I'm so, I mean, I have to be honest with you, I don't worry a lot, but I do worry about our culture right now. Because, you know, the average human, number one, our attention span, this is not pretty, our attention span is about 4 seconds now. And the average person gets distracted 7 to 10 times a minute. And that's not looking any better. Because when you know, unless you guys, you definitely like try to watch The Social Dilemma if you haven't seen it. That was a game changer for me. And you know, not to again, it's not to scare, but to be informed of what we're taking in. And so you know, simple shifts in routine, doing things a little differently, even like, you know, you guys think about it like relating this back to the yoga practice. If you always like do your sit up and then spin around the same way and set up the posture the exact same way, are we going to get anything more out of it? Because we're so different every day. So we can tweak our approach. One of the reasons I love fusion so much is because there are those more subtle or less subtle shifts, because it's different every time. So who you surround yourself with is big. And it's a struggle right now, because a lot of you are, you know, I talked to somebody yesterday who he and his wife, they have this beautiful house up on Old San Jose Road, and they only leave once a week to go to Costco. That's it. And so how do you know, it's like, think about that. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to, it's a lot of pressure, a lot of tension to put on relationships. So we have to kind of grow that think outside the box with that right now. And so I think of that as whose voice I'm letting in. Who, you know, where, because that is surrounding myself. I'm surrounding myself with, and this is one of the reasons I was really excited to do this, because while we may not be able to gather right now in the ways that we'd like to, this is, all of you on this call do not just practice yoga for the physical. That's one layer. It's a lot more than that. And so these Dharma talks that we do, we can inspire each other to be better, because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to be smarter. We want to do better. We want to give more. We want to be more generous. We want to help. We want to serve. It's seva, sacred service. We want to give more. So breaking habits is not easy, but super beneficial. And a lot of things have been stripped away naturally. And so, you know, it's like that cliche thing we say in yoga, like, what serves you? Okay, well, I mean, to me, I'll say it, but I catch myself saying it and I want to throw up, because I think I'm like, this doesn't mean, what does that mean to people? Like, you know, better said, it's like, is it working? Is this working for you? Like, is this relationship working? Is this diet working? Is the way you're sleeping working? Is the way you're talking to yourself working? You know, what is your world looking like? What does your personal reality look like right now? And you know, hopefully we are seeing all the blessings and the silver linings. Galia, my dear friend who's on the call, she came up with this concept we've been saying, which is the gifts of COVID. You know, the gifts. And so this is part of what we can shift into, out of that mind state of the mind traps and the negative self-chatter, is with the gifts, noticing all the blessings, you guys. You know, I've spent more time, I'm so grateful for the amount of time I've spent with my daughter. And it also is really hard for a lot of reasons. I stopped being able to help her with her homework when she was in 4th grade. So there's that. It's hard, you know, but the time, we don't get that back. And the outer layers that have fallen away, you know, I use that term like I've lost friends. It probably wasn't better said, is things have fallen away. But the relationships that matter, you know, some of your faces, I don't remember the last time we got to see each other, and yet no time has passed, right? And to me, those are like the most soulful friendships, is when you meet exactly where you are, start where you are, without, it doesn't matter what's happened. No time has passed, no judgment, no needy, like, where were you? Why didn't you call? Why did you, none of that, none of that. Just, I love you. Great to see you. Let's start from here and move on, and make this world a better place. So, noticing, you guys, really, which this is hard to do, but helpful, is that our body is an emotional storage house. And so there are traumas that are stored everywhere in our body. And there's different places based on really based on the psychology of development. We start with the root chakra, Muladhara, and then we go to the Svadhisthana, which is the sacral chakra. And then Muladhara is the belly. And then Anahata is the heart. And then Vishuddhara is the throat. And then Svadhisthana, it'll come to me in a moment. It's another S, and it's really hard to say, is our intuition and our crown chakra. So they move their way up in the psychology of development, and everything below the belt. So that's like not even navel center yet. That's the sacral, and the legs and the feet. That's literally formed, you guys, when we're like less than 3. This is why I'm like, it kills me when I see like a mom or a dad holding the baby, but they're like on their phone, because the infant is learning how to give and receive love, literally, by the way they're being looked at, by the way they're being nurtured and held and supported. And this is work that we do. This is shadow work, you guys, because none of us, oh man, not a single one of us escaped our childhood unscathed. I've yet to meet that person who had a very perfect, formative, 16 years leading up to. They're missing something, because none of us are perfect. We're perfectly imperfect. And with that said, our parents do the best they can, and there's a lot of forgiveness needed there, but we have to do the work. And so that concept, you've heard me say it a million times, wherever you go, there you are. This very much has to do with the feeling of safety, the feeling of being at home in your own skin, have agency over your body, being able to take root hold wherever you go. This is part of the reason that so many of you are drawn like moth to a flame to 26 and 2, because everything about that class, the standing series mostly, is root chakra. Like you're rooted down into the feet. You feel safe, you feel strong, you feel empowered. You remember that you have that right to be, to live, and to walk your walk, right? That for a lot of us, honestly, that if I did like pick one that has the most scars, the most core wounds, because our core wounds become our greatest boons. Our core wounds are the holy grail on the hero's journey. The hero's journey is when you get catapulted out into the fucking universe, last thing you want to do, it's not at all what you ordered. Here you go, tossed off into the universe, and then your job is to do all the things to make it back home. You meet the angels along the way, you fight the devils, you lose everything, you gain it back, you lose it, you gain it back, you learn the lessons, you meet the higher power, you find your holy grail, and then you come home with the boon, with the treasure. And what the gap that gets closed, and this is all Muladhara work, really, is when you realize that the quicker that we can do that, like circumnavigate the universe, the quicker that we can realize that our core wounds are our greatest gifts, that we look back and we go, oh, it's that part of me that said a little bit ago, that had to happen. That actually had to happen, because that formed who I am. And who I am is amazing. Chock full of potential, unmanifest potential, latent power, hidden power. It's in our genes, you guys, man. Talk about, like I said, the quantum universe, like you living as if is powerful. We don't manifest what we want. Good luck with that. You can think about the checks you want in the mail all day, but it's about who you are and how you're living your life. Walking your walk, talking your talk, and making other people feel how you want them to feel. That's your emotional echo. So we're at Muladhara, moving up. Then it's the Svadhisthana, it's the sacral chakra. And this governs our right to have a body, to love our body, to be pleasure in our body, The color for the root chakra is red. The color for the sacral chakra is orange. That means sweetness, citrus, I think of. This is our sexual juices. This is our right to have that in the first place. And it's interesting because that is formed before age 3. So you think about my like analogy to this is like the little kid, little baby, like number one, I've never met a toddler who says they're fat or that they don't look good in an outfit or that they don't love themselves. Like they're just all about that. And, look at me and they run around naked and, they're just so free and open. And that's their birthright. And that's how they're learning. They start to realize that they have hands and body parts that work. And then the one that people have the hardest with is, and this is what a lot of us are still struggling with, is Muladhara, is our solar plexus. And so that's the navel center. And this is the city of gems, Manipura is the name. And this is a big solar flare. This is like the sun. It's the color like bright yellow. And this is formed like 3 to like 5. And what you think about with this, you guys, is this is our self-esteem. This is our sense of power and will. And what is really hard raising kids is that is when they're learning to say their favorite word, which is N-O, no. No to everything, Some of your kids are fast learners and they did that at 2. They moved right up, And so what is interesting, and as a spiritual being having a human experience, which is what we all are, in my humble opinion, that we are missing the boat if we tell them to stop or be quiet, or we try to make them right when they feel like it's wrong. You know what I think about when I talk to my friends who are going through this, because it's so hard, the tantrums in the grocery store, and it's so gnarly. But I say, hey, I want you to think ahead. Just try. Because now I've got Nina, she's 14, she's going on 15. And I want that girl to be able to say, no, I'm not getting in that car. No, I'm not walking down that alley. No way, I'm not doing that drug just because you are. This is big tough, And so that right, then we move up into the heart. This is juicy stuff. This is the color green. And this governs all of the health of our arms, shoulders, back. A lot of back pain and tension is formed from that. And this is our right to give and receive unconditional love, which many of us are much better at giving than we are at letting it in. Give, receive unconditional love. And this is when relationships are formed. Now kids are starting to go to school, a lot of like, sharing and caring at the table. The whole world needs to go back to kindergarten, by the way, and learn to do those things again. Sit with each other and love each other, just love and love and love. That's all the world needs, love, love, love. And then we move up into the throat chakra, and that's the Vishuddhara, it's color blue. And this is our right. This is like around teen years. This is when they're having to speak for the first time in front of people. This is when they're having opinions, strong opinions sometimes, and it's awesome because they're working with all those energies moving up. And a lot of us did not have this properly developed. If you lived in a household where, don't speak unless spoken to, where your opinions, thoughts, feelings, dreams, visions were overpowered by what you were meant to be, what they wanted you to be, all that stuff. So this is, and the interesting thing is it's not just speaking our truth, it's hearing it too. And the way I always follow that up is clearly and kindly, because, your truth isn't always the nicest thing to share with somebody else. And so it's that like, whether it's, that whole thing of, is it necessary? Is it kind? And so, and that's how we learn, we live and we learn, we say those things sometimes that we wish we never would have said. And that, to me, the words are much more painful than physical. Always has been. I'm very sensitive, and I'm very aware of language, and it's hard. It's hurtful, and there's a lot of that flying around the world right now. Words and things that, because you can't take it back. You can say you're sorry, but you can't take it back. And so that's and people, we all know this, right? That people get behind a screen and they'll say whatever. Oh man, they get real big and brave because they're typing, you know, shh. And every time that happens, every time we go online, it's a dopamine hit, which is sad because we're creating a world of addicts. So then moving up, you know, our intuitive power and our crown chakra is the returning to our higher power. It's like the soft spot on the baby is the image of that I have is that the umbilical cord, you know, and the way that that's like the umbilical cord to God or to the higher power, and that soft spot closes off when the universe feels ready to pass the baby along to the parents. Here you go. It's your job now. And this, luckily, we have our whole lives to work on that one. Phew, finally, right? Because this one, again, is like teen years. And then this stuff is just, that's what we're doing right now. It's called the Jnana Yoga. That's spelled with the J, J-N-A-A, J-N-A-N-A, Jnana Yoga. And that's the yoga of the mind. You know, the branch on the tree, you guys, this is a little yoga philosophy that I just gave you in history. But the idea is that asana practice, physical practice, is just one little branch. There's so much more. And it is the most amazing lifestyle. And it's so beautiful to dive into, because it doesn't matter what mystical tradition you come from, whether you're Judeo-Christian, whether you're Buddhist, you know, whether you are Hindu, it doesn't matter, you know, Catholic, there's similarities to all of it. And it's remembering that there's some divine guidance out there that's bigger than we are, that's got more there, that's figuring this shit out for us. The universe has our back, literally. So, you know, going back to changing our thoughts, we can understand a little bit more now how hard that is, because our truths and who we are was formed long ago. And, you know, while it's not too late, it's never too late. It is hard. And we need to have compassion for ourselves, because the work takes time. And so the body stores, babe, the body stores trauma, feelings, memories. You know, it's one of the reasons why many of you have experienced being in yoga, and like you have no idea why after camel you felt emotional. You have no idea why you were feeling perfectly fine, happy and blissful, and then all of a sudden there's tears running down your cheeks. And it's moving energy, you know. There are layers to who we are. They're called the koshas. And I think of it like a bullseye. And so the outermost layer is sadly what we live our whole life identifying with. And it's this skin suit that we're in. It's the food body. It's the Annamaya kosha. And that is literally, if we can't get past that, you guys, it's not, you know, you're not living your best life. We even, you know, modern science tells us that in 3 weeks time, you're going to be in a different body than you're in right now. Cell turnover. You know, if you look back and like pictures of yourself a few years ago, you're like, where's that body? That's not me anymore. Like, we change, we evolve, and that's what we're meant to do. And so, you know, breaking the habits, the patterns of self-chatter. Number one, you have to give yourself a little kindness and compassion, because this is not stuff that you came up with. You didn't just decide one day that you weren't that perfect toddler with the, you know, rockin' bod and feeling like you just want to touch yourself all day. Like, you didn't, you know, stuff has happened along the way, not to be blamed, but to say, okay, wow, I formed that story long ago, but who I am now, for me to become who I want to be, I got to change the story. I'm not going to go back and erase it, but I want to be able to work with it, you know, and part of that is forgiveness. Really hard. Especially, I would not recommend, should you choose to do this work, because it's not for the faint of heart, I would not recommend going to your deepest trauma. You know, start with something little, meaning like that. Here, better said, I'm going to sum it up like the Dalai Lama said in one of the speeches he gave, like the last time he was able to speak in public. He said, so you guys, you want to reach enlightenment? You know, looks around, you guys you want to reach enlightenment? People are like shaking their head. And he's like, go talk to the person you're not talking to. People are like, ugh. You know, I love that, because I don't know about you guys, but I do not want to be the person in the grocery store who somebody turns and walks away from because there was a bridge that was burned, because there was something that was said. And just to remind you, we would not talk to somebody else the way we talk to ourselves. So catch yourself, you guys, please catch yourself doing it. I catch myself all the time. I'll tell you the most recent one actually happened this morning was, you know, oh my God, you guys, you should see my laundry from teaching 3 times a day. I take a bag home at the end of the day that's like a trash bag full of towels and clothes. And so it's just a constant process, right? And so much of my shit doesn't need to be folded or hung. And so what I have a tendency to do is get into that place where it's like it piles up or whatever. And so I kind of walked into my closet and I saw like the you know, the clothes that were stacked on top. And I really do appreciate like a clean environment, organization and stuff. And so I saw it and I kind of did this thing where I was like, come on, Nicole, like, can't you just get it together, like put it away. And then I was like, no, wait a minute, sister, like that's not going to work. No, you're working your ass off and you're going to get it done in the way that's right for you. So stop that, you know, and that's how it starts, you guys. It starts with self-awareness. It starts with mindfulness of noticing how you think, because we can think better. We can think greater. We can create new pathways. We can those neurons that fire together, wire together, and we can grow it. But for us to do that, you know, we really want to move beyond. And so every one of us has been through so much, and we have every right and justification should we want to sit and bitch for 10 hours straight. We could sit and we could complain and we could say all that has happened and all that is wrong and all that is terrible. And guess what? The universe is going to go, here you go, more of that. It's going to prove you right. And that's not what we want. At least that's not what I want. You know, and so noticing, you guys, your thoughts, who you're surrounding yourself with, what information you're taking in, what thoughts are happening a lot, you know, do a brain dump. That's one of my favorite ways to journal. I had it right here, one of my journals. It's just like, I just like dump, you know, I open it up, and if I'm having one of those days where there's a lot of thoughts, I'll just pick the pen up and just get it out, you know, and it's helpful. It's really helpful, because if we don't, then just like the computer does, it gets overloaded. And we've got to clean out the cache of the mind. And especially those of you right now who have been really deeply affected by not being able to be here. Like, I want to say my heart bleeds for you. And I love the fact that you're caring for yourself and that you're loving on your family and that you're sacrificing this, and it does not go unnoticed. And it's so beautiful and giving. And the people, and the flip side, the people who have been here when I was open, and it's all good. Everybody's doing what they need to do to get through this. But I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. I think that we beat ourselves up. I think that we question, second guess. We are sometimes our own worst enemy. Oftentimes we are. And, you know, so start by complimenting yourself. Start by just taking a moment to, you know, if I could go back and talk to my 10-year-old self, there's so many things I would want to say, you know, and one of the, like, you're beautiful, you're amazing. And you're going to have it's going to be hard, but like everything that is going to happen is literally for you. It always works out for you, you guys. Different than me telling you, you always get what you want, but it always works out for you. And it's going to continue to do that. It's going to continue, but your work has to continue as well. And it's not going to be from watching the news or from scrolling on the phone. And so, and also because I'm really inspired by something called the emotional echo. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm not looking at all in the chat, but let's see. I'm going to read those out loud in a minute. This breaks my heart. I just read one. So I can't move on from that. I have to go back. Let's see, it's private. Oh, thank you, Will. Okay, that's good. I think I missed the other one. So going back to what I was just saying was that it's, well, everything changed for me when I had my daughter, everything. Like my life was never the same, and thank God it wasn't and isn't. But for me, that was the Satori. Satori is it's a beautiful word. It's a Japanese word for enlightenment, for flash of enlightenment, Satori, Satori. And that was my moment. Like, birthing my daughter was Satori. It was like a flash of enlightenment, and nothing was the same. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, my body is amazing and the world is amazing. And I just grew a human, and it's just gotten better and better. But it is super inspiring to me, which gets me up out of bed in the morning, is to do more for them, to lead from a place of like example, you know? And sadly, a lot of our world right now is forgetting that the little people are watching. They're watching the complaints, they're listening to the news, they're taking in the hate and the separation. You know, I promise this is not political, but it only is to say that so much is being revealed right now through the way that we're all treating each other through the election. Meaning, like, it's kind of that feeling of, like I said, but like, would you not go in and help that person because they didn't vote for who you voted for or whatever? Like, would you, and because I believe that there's going to be this way that we can come together and talk about, like, get to know each other a little more. Tell me more about that feeling or that thought or that, like, that how you know, that belief. And just by holding space for that, I think it creates that sacred pause. If you really want something amazing, read or listen to Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. He is just a brilliant story and philosopher, and he was in Auschwitz concentration camp and witnessed his whole family being murdered and was wrongly and was imprisoned and just horrible things. But he made a decision that nothing and no one was going to steal his belief that there was a better world, his vision for, you know, his belief in something bigger. And so, you know, I saying, like, the mindset to be blessed is a big one. Gratitude is a big one. But here's the deal. For all of that, it has to serve them. It's not just making our life better. It's making the world a better place. Because when you know that you have blessings, when you remember all of your blessings, then you get to be the blessing. Like, that was like, oh my gosh, that's everything, because that's what I want. I want to be a blessing. I want to spread more love and light and my emotional echo, how I make other people feel. Please, if you have a pen, write this down and teach this to your family. It's called emotional echo. It's the wake of what you leave behind. It's your legacy. And this is not, you know, I have a dear, well, Tia wouldn't mind if I told you, because, you know, Tia's my little soul sister, but her husband to be, she's having a baby, by the way, which is like the most exciting thing. She's growing a little baby in her belly. And it's crazy because she's like 7 months and she has nothing yet. I'm like, when is that? When are you going to show? But it's beautiful. And her fiance and dear friend of mine, Nat, his mom is not well and is, you know, on her last days. And, you know, it's like witnessing that and what the wake of who you are and how you live your life. And you were going over today, like the trust and stuff and like the yucky paperwork and all that. But it was more of like, that's not what it is. It's not the cars that you have and the house that you own and the, you know, the job and the savings account, whatever, all that bullshit. It's who you are and how you live your life. And it's called the emotional echo. And it's literally when somebody thinks of you, how do you want them to feel? When you cross somebody's path and then you walk away, what do you want the wake left behind to be? And I don't think any of us would be, well, I want to be remembered as an asshole who was like, you know, really driven to, you know, earn more and do more. And, but, you know, because I wanted to be able to leave my family with all of these things. Well, you know, unfortunately, because it's now consciousness over currency, we're going to miss the boat. Please remember, like I said, that like tomorrow is never promised. And if we have not seen that play out in 2020, you guys, and, you know, another dear friend of mine, she did not pass away from COVID. She passed away from a really long, sad battle with Alzheimer's. So sad because her body basically just shut down. And what happened to was in the nursing home in Watsonville that had so many cases. And my dear friend was not able since March to go visit. And so the mom, who's very young, very sad, made a very steady decline in health. And, sadly, Megan was on her way to, she got the call that it was like hospice was there. And, her mom passed on Megan's way to get there. They were like, she's like 10 minutes away. And, but what was so beautiful, and that was really sad and it's tragic, but what was beautiful was sitting with my friend and her to be able to tell me all the beautiful things about her mom's life and how the memories and the way that she made my dear friend feel. She happened to also have something really beautiful, which was her mom had journals from like her whole life. I can't even think of a better gift. She has boxes of journals to be able to go back and read her mom's writings. And that was super inspiring to me, because in the face of all of this, there are these there's the gifts of COVID. Thank you, Galia, for that. The little silver linings, the blessings, so that we can bless, being blessed so that we can bless. And so there's really no time, you guys, for the mind traps. I want to go over that real quick. Let me pull it up on my computer. Anybody chime in if you have any comments, questions, or anything right now before I go into this next layer. Anybody want to say anything? There goes Sue.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to keep hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So isn't it good, you guys? It's so good. It's so good. Thank you, sweetie. I just like, I want to like reach to the screen, you guys, and like kiss your faces. And all of you, even the ones that don't have their camera on, I know I'm so grateful that you're here. But here are the 7 most common mind traps. 7 most common that we all go through. Okay, here they are. Number 1, emphasizing the negative / discounting the positive. Man, how many people do we know right now that are living in that place? Emphasizing the negative, discounting the positive. That's like the daily conversation I have with my husband. Put the news down and let's talk about how beautiful our life is. It's hard. It's hard not to feel it, but that's the number 1, or that's the first one, I should say, not the number 1, but that's the first one. The second one is negative self-talk. We spent a lot of time talking about that today. The third one is shoulds. Should all over each other and ourselves, right? You should do this, you shouldn't do that. I should have, like that word, it can be replaced with a lot of other words. I'll try to go into that too. The next one is, it's a long word, but it's like catastrophic, only catastrophizing, meaning like it's the end of the world. When something that really can be whittled down to maybe not such a big deal is turned into something catastrophic and has its way of working through our mind as the worst thing that could happen. And then we start to view the world through that lens, going right to that place. Because we all know, I think we get this, that at least I've lived this life, man. And I'm just so ready to be done with this, that the worst things in my life never happened. That anxiety for me, and I think all of us, I'm just going to make an overarching assumption again, that many of us have dealt with anxiety this year, if never have before. It's definitely something that has come up. And anxiety is literally us living outside of the moment. It's us anticipating something that, number 1, hasn't happened yet, that's generally rooted in fear. And then we try to prove ourselves right with all of the memories that we have of things that have gone wrong. But in hindsight, if you could look back, because hindsight becomes mindsight, hindsight becomes mindsight, which then becomes insight. And so in hindsight, if you can look back, it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be. I think, Nina's outside the office doing some homework right now with me, or in the studio. But I heard my story about that is that, Nina has never been stung by a bee. but she's terrified of fees. So guess what? And I'm not making fun because we've all been there, but it's so much worse because the fear creates the trap, creates the story, creates the anxiety, and then you're stinging yourself all the time. So, but we've learned that through experience. Oh, this is a good one, you guys. The next one is mind reading, which basically is making assumptions. We take physical language, you know, you're having like an argument with your spouse and you see their brow furl a certain way, or you know, somebody throws a shoulder back or lets out a, you know, moves their eyes a certain way. And all of a sudden we can read their mind. Because mostly it's not about us at all. Generally, what we're thinking, they're saying in their mind is not generally it. It's usually some insecurity or some fear that they have. And which gives compassion, but mind reading is a trap. And then so many of us know this one. It's the expert, the external expert. I think of this as the mind that's in a box that is not open to any other possibility, that it's this way and and I'm an expert and you can't tell me any different. Which is honestly what scares me the most, not scares, wrong word, but what concerns me the most about our society moving forward is that people have been so sharply, strongly opinionated one way or the other. They have presented themselves as the expert. And when the world comes along and rocks somebody's world, because we don't know what the fuck's going on, let's just be straight with each other. We don't know. And I don't know anything about that. But there are a lot of people in our community who believe they do. And they believe it so hard that they're going to fight for that because nobody wants to be wrong, but it's a trap. Because, you know, having a mind that's open to everything is a beautiful life. I learned that from Wayne Dyer. Have a mind that's open to everything and attached to nothing. That's from the Tao Te Ching. And in the Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, another great book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, is in the expert's mind, because it's the external, in the expert's mind, there are very few possibilities. But in the novice beginner mind, there are many. And I want a world of possibility, you know, a utopia, I've been calling it, where it's like, and it's not that far off from my life right now in the studio, other than you not being here. But utopia is, you know, by very definition, has never existed. You know, it's our fantasy, but we have a chance, you guys, to create that. We have a chance to create the world moving forward, our world, our personal reality, a beautiful life. Okay, the last one, no, I repeated, sorry, mind reading. So I went through them, but there's another one. Let me go back to, this is one of my lectures. So let's start with emphasizing the negative. And here's the effects of that, you guys, when we emphasize the negative. Anxiety and depression. It definitely is like it just leads you right into anxiety and depressing moods. Critical and judgmental. And so, and those are like the effects. It's the negative. Let's talk about what we can do instead, solutions. So we can replace but with and. This has probably been the single most powerful word game that I've played this year, and it has been huge for me. When I catch myself saying, but, you know, I had a really great day, but, okay, what it does is it discounts any positive and it shoots you to the negative. Here's the difference. I had a really great day and I was feeling really overwhelmed. And includes, it's inclusive. It weaves together all of the layers so that we're not shaming, blaming, or disconnecting from any parts of ourselves. Replace but with and. I catch myself doing it all the time. It's kind of funny. I'll be talking and go, and. Better said, and. It takes work, but it's amazing what that will do. And training your mind to recognize the good in people, things, and events, here's what we can do. I know somebody who did, I was like, oh my God, I have so much like, whew, I don't know if I could do that. She did a judgment detox for a year. Dude, she wrote down every judge, carried around in journals, and would write down to the best of her ability the judgments that came up, and just observed, and then went back and replaced those things with something positive. Oftentimes she would actually say them as well. You know, it's kind of a healing, because there were some that were very repetitive, same relationship or whatever that would come up. But you know, it's learning to recognize, you guys, that because I think that you all get this, but every relationship, every person that crosses your path, there is no coincidence in my world, absolutely not. And it's all orchestrated. It's not circumstance, it's happening for you. And their soul's journey, you know, some of us cross and we may never know why. Some of them stay a really long time. Some of them go. You know, some of them get closer over time and some of them dissipate. But every single one is a mirror. It's a mirror held up for us to recognize and acknowledge the parts of us that might bring up friction. It's the reason we get so triggered by other people, because because we have a part of that too. And it's not always, that's the shadow stuff. But when we can see the good in even the, you know, I mean, I challenge you right now to pick a politician and try to say something good. Yeah, it's hard, you know, and that's for right now, that's just what's in our face. But what could have been, you know, it could be anybody else. It could be somebody that you have a lot of disdain for, or that you've really, you know, cut out of your life, or that, you know, we feel has harmed us, or, you know, betrayed us, or, you know, it goes back to forgiveness. And maybe you're not there yet, but find something good. What was something good that was brought to you, you know, for them? So that's the emphasizing the negative self-talk, which is really, really important, because, you know, we talked about that a lot today. So here's the effects of negative self-chatter. That it really creates a pattern, an intensely set pattern of self-criticism, which lead us to more fear, and my personal favorite, procrastination, putting things off, and fear. I talked about this in my 9 a.m. this morning on the stream. And it came to me when I was teaching, but I have those cool Japanese shoji screens behind me. And I was sitting there and I was looking, I like caught my eye, and it, like, to me, it represented fear, because I could see through like the little pretty lights on the other side. But it was like that veil that I've learned over my life, that almost everything I've ever wanted, everything I've ever been able to accomplish, achieve, step into, has been just on the other side of that. It's just on the other side of our comfort zone, on our, you know, but it's not letting fear block what we can see through, or we're willing to go and step around, or step behind, or over, or under. But for me, that's been a common pattern. And procrastination is something that I've learned over the years. It just doesn't serve me. It just clutters my mind. Why didn't I just drop the thing off in the first place, or, you know, check it off the list? And so we, you know, we get that, like, being more on top of our time is important. Being aware of how we manage that all is important. And things that usually when we procrastinate, it's because it's either something we're afraid of, we don't want to do, or brings up some kind of uncomfortable feeling. So, and that also is a loop of negative self-chatter. You know, that thing that you're telling yourself may happen is actually not going to happen. It's much easier just to do it. Have that conversation even mean to have, you know, blah, blah, blah. It never goes as well or as poorly as I just had an experience with this. I had a beautiful silver lining that just happened. I have so much to tell you, Galia, about what just transpired between my old business partner. And he is a gem in my life, and he is the reason why Bikram Yoga Aptos ever was able to be built. He was an angel who came into my life, and for over the series of events over the years, and I grew and he grew, and we just didn't see eye to eye anymore, and there needed to be a dissolution of that partnership. and I'm still here, and he's, you know, in the area, but we haven't spoken in several years. And for several other reasons, I, you know, I needed to contact him, and I wouldn't say that I was like anticipating the worst, but I kind of was, you know. I mean, the studio's had a tremendous amount of success since that shift, and again, everything happens for a reason. But I didn't know what to expect, and you guys, I got the kindest, sweetest, most compassionate response, and that has led to this amazing, like out of this world business spiritual opportunity that is in my lap right now, that is like, I can't even believe this is happening for me. And it would not have happened had I not have made that contact. Right? And it wasn't something that I was looking forward to necessarily. It was nothing that I expected, but isn't that how things work out for all of us a lot of times? It oftentimes is the reverse of what we think. And so, you know, how we can be better is to do some of those things, to, like the Dalai Lama said, to have that conversation with the person we're not talking to. That was big for me. And then, so the solutions to negative self-chatter. Learn to treat thoughts as passing mental events, not as facts. It's the clouds that pass in the sky. They're just thoughts, you guys, and they're, you know, we can't stop them. It's like asking your heart to stop beating. Good luck. Like, it doesn't, our mind is meant, we're hardwired to think. But we need to realize that we have thoughts, but we are not our thoughts. Next lecture, I hate to call it that, next talk, I'm going to do it on Monday. I want to talk about a little bit more of the spiritual side, meaning like, who are we? And like, what is this? Like, everything is always changing. Everything's uncertain. Why should I feel okay with that? And I want to talk to you about that. It's called Purusha and Prakriti. And it's this beautiful lesson of everything is always changing, but there's one thing that's never changed since before you took your first breath, and it's your soul. And your soul's journey cannot be messed with, y'all. In fact, we have very little to do with that. It's a, you know, we're being divinely guided. You should choose your own adventure. But I do astrology, you guys, and my daughter and I were just talking about this because we had kind of a skeptic cross our paths, which is fine, you know. But Nina's she's 14, and she's like, "Oh, you should try it. Like, it's so accurate. It's so spot on. Like, but it doesn't predict our life. It gives us a blueprint of things that probably will come up for us somewhere, somehow, and then they repeat. And what are those lessons? And are you going to do your work? You know, because your soul's work, you guys." And I just had an experience, some of you know it, several weeks ago, where I had a very empowering psychic reading. Never done anything like that in my life, even though my grandma's a psychic. I've never done it. And she knew stuff that I was like, holy shit. And she knew nothing about me or my husband. My husband's had a lot of death in his family. And all of those people were talking to us and saying things there's no way she would have known. And a lot of the soul's journey for that family is not done yet. There are hurts, there are things that weren't said, there are healings that are needed, and that's amazing. So I think we're told a lot of times, and again, I think this would cross over with any mystical tradition. We have this image that we take our last breath, and then, you know, we cross the pearly gates and everything is perfect, hunky-dory, and I'm not going to say that there's not part of that that's true, but don't repeat the same lessons in the next life. That's what I told her. I was like, help me out with this one thing, because I don't want to do this again in my next life. So how can I like figure this one out and do the best I can with this one, so that when I return, that it's a new lesson, you know, it's a new layer. And that's part of what we're doing with this work. The meditation is powerful. We'll talk about that in another talk, how to do it, why we do it, ways to do it, because, you know, it's very like trendy right now, and everybody meditates, and awesome. And, you know, they drink their green juice, and, you know, that's fine. You do all that too. But also, how do we do it in a world that is crazy as fuck? And where it's hard enough to quiet the mind for 5 seconds, let alone you want me to sit for 20 minutes. When you can't get it wrong, that's the main gist of it. You can't get it wrong. You just are opening up to a quiet space, and then the thoughts get really, really big and heavy, and then they slow down at a certain time, but it's work, but that's there, it can happen. And then my favorite for negative self-talk is affirmations. An affirmation is a kind, positive statement that can be repeated over and over to positively brainwash you. And where people we talked about this on my tribe, I call it my tribe, but I have a coaching tribe that we do twice a week. And we talked about it yesterday, I think, was to be really careful, you guys, with this sentence, these two words, I am. Okay. When you say something like to yourself or out loud, I am frustrated, I am sick and tired, I am exhausted, I am sick, I am not worthy, I'm not good enough. Guess what? We've talked about this before. Universe is going to go, yep, you're right. And it's going to prove it to you over and over in the things that get thrown into your path to reinforce that belief. I am is one of the most spiritual. It's so hum. It is one. It's like an om you can think about, and it's a vibration with the universe that literally, when you say that, I am, you are talking to your soul, and don't you dare beat your soul up. So be careful. You can say something like that. In English, what language is a little funky with this one? Other languages will say it like this. I am with sadness. I am experiencing frustration. Maybe better said is I feel, I've been struggling with, but the I am is very, very powerful. And so affirmations help. And one of the ways that I've done getting through my negative self-chatter is it's silly, but like little Post-it notes around the house, around the bathroom. If you get ready in the same place every day, how about putting a Post-it note up that says, you are beautiful? Maybe at your desk where you do your work, you are wealthy. I am wealthy. I have everything I could ever need. And these positive statements can start to replace the negative self-talk, because the mind has a big draw propensity towards what's negative. It's a dark hole in space, and it pulls us that direction. And so, us light workers, we've got some work to do. And it absolutely. Oh, the other one is good parent messages. We'll talk about that in another talk, because a lot of us, this is the sad thing. I went through this in the last, this is one of the lectures I gave in one of my advanced trainings, was the good parent messages. Here's the idea. You take a column, you slice it down the middle, and you have basic rights. Something like, I have a body, I have a mind, I give and receive unconditional love. I am safe to feel. I am safe to be in to be at home wherever I may go. And it's a long list of messages. Good parent messages are called. And you take mom and dad, and then you go down and you exit, you cross it, or give it a little check if you received that message. What was really not hard, but beautiful for me, I have what I would say is a decent relationship with my parents. We're very different. They live close. We're not super close. But I could not check off, you guys, one fucking box. And it wasn't, for me, it wasn't so much sad. I knew this already, and I'm 44, I've done a lot of the work, but also it was like, oh my gosh, Nicole, you've done all this and you've come this far with that? Wow. And it also very much inspired me to want to be a better mom. Not to do it better than them, just that I want to be able to get those. I want Nina to think back and go, check, 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 at least for my path. And so those are something that we can work with, because here's the beauty, the silver lining of that. And it's actually really cool, is that let's say that you have similarity to me, that maybe there are holes in that chart, the check, 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 that you get to then be that for yourself. You get to learn and to be all of the things for you. You get to be the loving mom and the loving father and the loving, ancestors. And that sets you up for success. And it's beautiful. It's actually a gift, because anything is possible. Let's talk about shoulds. Let's move down to the next one. So when we should all over ourselves or anybody else, the effect of that is guilt and stress when expectations aren't met. Expectations and attachments cause more suffering than almost anything in the world. When we expect something from somebody else or from ourselves, we usually are disappointed. When we're too attached to any one thing, we're setting ourselves up for unnecessary loss. And so, again, it's just being aware when we speak to ourselves as, you really should do this thing. You really should. What we're doing is we're setting us up for personal failure, for not doing as good as we think we should. Anger and resentment when others don't live up to your expectations, which leads to righteousness. This is a whole nother lecture I could do for you guys, is healthy communication and relationship, like soulful, spiritual relationships, not ego-based. There's two different types of relationship. There's an ego-based and a spiritual-based. And I think you all know what we want. We want spiritual-based. But the ego-based says, I love you because I need you. I love you because I want you. That's ego. The soul, the spirit says, I love you because I love you. I love you because you are you. And that to me is the most beautiful thing. And if we, it can save, heal, create the most soulful coupling when we understand that, and it helps a lot to communicate with the self and to see the difference in that, and to realize that none of us knows enough about anything to be a pessimist. Truth right there, truth bomb. And then the trap we get caught in with should, here's the analogy I'll use for like body image. You're not feeling that awesome in shape or whatever, the paired pants or whatever, and you say, I shouldn't, God damn it, you shouldn't have eaten that ice cream. You shouldn't have had that extra glass of wine. Like you shouldn't have, you should have should have done how somebody else did. And then you're never enough. When the truth of it is, thank God you have this beautiful rockin' body, and it's the body that you are given, and it's the one that you're here to take care of, and it is exactly perfect the way that it is. The biggest lie you're ever told is that your body is not enough. I learned that from my grandpa, who lost his leg when he was 6 years old, lived a full, beautiful life with a prosthetic limb, and you never knew he was suffering. He never talked about it. He had a little limp. Nobody ever asked, never complained about it. He just lived a full life. And I think about that whenever I say anything negative to my legs. Like, hey, grandpa's listening up there. So you're lucky enough to have two legs, Nicole, So then our solutions for shoulding is moving from judgment to understanding. That rather than judging each other right now, what somebody does with their time, what they believe in, what their car they're driving, whether they're going to yoga or not. That was a big one, right? Because I would say to my students recently who were comfortable enough being here, was I love and I have so much compassion for you, because I imagine that somebody in your life is not happy with you being here. And I just want to say that I love and have compassion, and the same way that we have compassion for everybody else, that just give yourself some credit for doing something that feels right enough for you, that you're willing to put yourself first. And that's beautiful. And it's also beautiful that that they care enough, So that's switching from judgment to understanding. And that is the part of us that remembers we're more alike than different, that we are one, that we're all from the same stardust, and that should we cross paths, we want to make sure that we're bonded and connected. I had a really beautiful conversation via text, but with Karina. I love Karina, my girl, and like she's teaching elsewhere and she's doing her own thing, and her and I love each other. And it's just two women who are like, how you doing? Are you getting through this? And like, we know we're going to come together on the other side someday, and her journey and my journey are not linked right now, but it doesn't mean that we don't love each other. We don't even need to agree. it's just that, and that's like so beautiful to me right now, because, you know, there's a lot of judgment and, for at least in my world, misunderstanding, I would say. But guess what? We never know the story, y'all. We never know unless you're walking that mile in their shoes. So practicing non-judgment, you know, should we all be so lucky, because judgment is a part of our very logical brain. It's a, you know, we have a reptilian brain, you guys. You know, we came from, you know, it's not that long ago. It's 5 million years ago that we first stood up from all fours. And then it was 4 million years after that that fire was discovered. And somewhere in there, the first weapons were created. And then we went on this whole battle, we're still on it universally, between, you know, the simplest of things and violence, between creation and destruction. And then fast forward to, you know, I'll go all the way to 74, when the first personal computer, like we're on right now, was first turned on. My daughter corrected me on that recently, because but it was like 1944 that the calculator was invented, but not the computer. But this PC was the first one in 74, and then 82 was the birth of the internet. And look, and you guys, look where we are. Like, that shit is like, whoa, slow down, people. Like, we are in 2020, going on 2021, and like, you know, hey, Nina, she probably can't hear me. She had this great thing to tell me the other day about a definition of a robot. And it was basically like, it was scary, because it was, you know, it was like being commanded to do. What's the definition of the robot? Do you remember?
Like forced labor.
Forced labor. Thanks, baby. She says I agree. Forced labor. And, you know, God, right? Oh, you know, and we've been hearing so many years about AI. That's a whole nother talk. But, you know, look at where we are. We're moving really quick. And if, you know, what's amazing and also a bit terrifying is how quickly we've gone from March to here without a whole lot of information, without really knowing. We all have different sources, but what I'm saying is it's been a rapid transition, decline, whatever you want to call it, in consciousness. So our work becomes even more important, because God, I don't want to fast forward, and, you know, I want to go back to that slow, you know, slow down, less digital, more soulful. So, and, you know, the should is a big forgiveness. Those are just meditations you can practice, compassion, or meditation, or forgiveness meditation. The whole catastrophic, the effects are automatically imagining the worst possible outcome. When we think catastrophically, this is a big trigger for panic attacks and anxiety. I have my fair share of experience with panic attacks. And I imagine that more people this year have experienced them. Some people don't know, you know, just know that if you have them or hold space for them, that, you know, they can be scary. And all that we really need with each other as far as trauma resolution is just to hold space for each other. You know, though people laugh when I say this, but like, the worst thing you can say to somebody having a panic attack is breathe. Just breathe. Like, they're fucking trying to breathe. They're doing everything they can to get a breath. And so, you know, things that are really helpful is I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm not going to try to fix it. I just want you to know that I'm not going to go anywhere. You know, and let me know what you need. And if you don't know what you need, that's okay. But I'm right here. And that's those kinds of things are really helpful. It creates a little gap in the panic response. You know, the panic response is like the lid gets flipped down and everything our systems shut down. And so when we can flip our lid again and open up to possibility, it just creates a little space, a little crack, and then the light starts to come in. So that can be really helpful. The what if game of worst case scenarios. Oh my God, if you guys haven't lived this lately, it's so hard. Oh my God, what if this person wins? Oh my God, what if that person wins? Oh my God, what if COVID? What if this? What if that? What if there's masks? What if there's no masks? You know, what if there's people? What if there's no people? Like, What if my bank account? What if my job? What if my relationship? Well, it's never that bad when we think catastrophically. Here's the thing, it's a shift, man. And I'm not going to ask you to believe this, but I believe it with my whole heart. There is no limit to how good we can feel. There's no limit to how much love you can have. There's no limit to how much spiritual wealth you can have, which is going to lead to the other stuff. You know, we can do a money talk. I love my money lecture. It's a money mindset, baby. And it's like, let's talk about like how to create. But there's no limit. But we put limits on that. We have these mind traps that set us in these familiar feelings that create our state of being, that create our reality and our relationship to ourselves, which creates our relationship to other people. And we're caught in the loop of familiar behavior. And remember, emotion gets lodged in the body, trauma gets lodged in the body. And so, you know, it's a process, but you have to have a shift. There has to be some shift, and it starts with desire, you know, and not for more. I'm not saying that you don't have to be satisfied with all the beautiful things that you have, but a desire for a better world, for something bigger than you. And God, please make it bigger than what's on your scale. That's the smallest mind that we can go to right now, you guys. And your life is so much bigger than that. And you're beautiful. So the what if game is a big one. How can we what's our solutions to that catastrophic thinking? Are you guys okay? I'm going to go a little longer. Is that okay? You'll just jump off if you need to. Okay. So practicing clear perception. This is, if you've ever heard of the work of Byron Katie, Byron Katie has something, it's called The Work. She's amazing. But she breaks things down. Byron Katie is the name. She breaks things down to very clear perception, which is how much bullshit we put on stories. Oh man, we twist things around. You know, you and I could be raised in the same household with the same set of circumstances, under the same roof, with the same parents, and we could have two completely different scenarios, right? Because we create that. So what is true is scaling things really, really, really down. And it's oftentimes very simple. And then we spice it all the stuff on top of it. So what is true is amazing work to get into, but it's not easy. And then, you know, just practicing mindfulness. Let's go to mind reading. So you guys, I'm going to give you all this. So the effects of mind reading are convincing yourself you know what other people are thinking without any actual evidence. I do this all the time. Well, I don't do it as much anymore. My husband and I are getting better, but we are very, I wonder if you guys can relate to this. We're very affected by each other's energy. You know, if he comes home and he's had a rough day, I can feel it coming out of him. Same for me. If I'm in a mood, and we take that story on as if it has anything to do with either one of us, and it rarely does. But that's what mind reading can get us into, when we make assumptions about what somebody else is thinking without any proof. Okay, without any proof, without any evidence. So we can really spin, and especially because we're so good at negative self-chatter, this can spin us into negative self-talk, more anxiety, and more depression. And man, do we not need that. And I told you guys, those of you who weren't on the call earlier, 1 in 4 youth has considered suicide in recent times. Binge drinking is up 48% for both men and women. And, you know, we just lost, I mean, I don't want to get too sad, but it's big for me. We just lost another youth, and a 17-year-old from Scotts Valley committed suicide 2 days ago. And this stuff breaks my heart, you guys. It's the collateral damage. And you know, we all have layers of ourselves. We cry, we hurt, you know, we have days. But if it's going beyond that, please reach out for help. You have my number, you know how to get in touch with me, or whatever it is, but don't not ask for help. And if you know anybody who's suffering right now, you know, maybe there's somebody you haven't heard from in a while, but you guys, you guys are all yogis, and your intuition is so fucking sharp that, believe me, if you dream about somebody because we all do that. You're like, why was that person my dream? If you think about somebody, there is a reason, and there's a divine intervention that's coming to you, and listen to that voice, heal that thing, make that call, send that text message, write a handwritten note. It can save somebody's life right now. That's my public service announcement for the day. So it can poison relationships when we project onto others, when we make assumptions. If you haven't read the 4 Agreements, read the 4 Agreements. But it's a little easy book, but it's a nice one to keep by your bedside and remember those rules to kind of like kindly live by. And so the solution is, and this is a great one, this is a Buddhist tradition, but it's the middle way, it's called. And the solution to reading, maybe so, maybe not. For example, if I'm thinking Bob is furious with me, then I can say to myself, maybe so, maybe not. It gives you that middle way where you're not attached to a story, and it opens up possibility for the flip side, which is perspective shift, which we could all use in all things, is perspective shift. And if you're into, I'm into the Hindu pantheon, which is all the gods and goddesses. And if you're into that stuff, then the most popular one that you'll see is the Ganesha. That's like the little elephant. And Ganesha is the Lord. He has an amazing story, but he is the Lord of perspective shift. He also brings great connection and comfort. He has, he's the big elephant ears and belly to like hold and comfort you. But he is the one who asks us to look at something from a different perspective. And it's really helpful. He's on my altar all the time at home. And then the 3rd agreement from the 4 Agreements is not to take anything personal. Let's see. And then we've got the external expert. And so this external expert, this is the one that so many of us are witnessing in the media right now, and people are so certain that they're right. This is the righteous, rigid, perfectionist, narcissistic, pessimistic, stress from always being on guard. It's no fun. It's not a happy place to live. But if we can remember Ganesha and we can remember the perspective shift, that we realize that, even the Zen saying, if the expert's mind, there are few possibilities, the beginner's mind, the Zen mind, there are many. So all of us are beginners in this world. All of us are just learning this thing called life. None of us has it figured out. And so an attempt to feel better than others, high ego, which sets them up to fail, leads to criticism and resentment. High ego leads to low ego. That's a sad one. And we see that played out a lot on social media. People are posting their perfect lives and their perfect wives and their cars and their meals and their, they're like, then people compare to, and if they don't get the likes, if they don't get the dopamine hit, if somebody doesn't say, oh my gosh, you look amazing, then the low ego. But that post came from a place of high ego, but the high ego leads to the low. And so the better place, we're never going to transcend our ego. What we are going to do as yogis is integrate and realize that actually is the mind, body, mind, there's no separation. And so when we integrate ego, then we realize it's a beautiful thing, keeps us alive oftentimes, but it doesn't need to be the commander in chief. So the solutions would be obviously the perspective shift. And then I mentioned earlier the I am. So the so hum, S-O, and then the next word is H-U-M, so hum. The meditation is I am that. I am that. This is also, not to get, religion and spirituality are very intertwined in mystical traditions, I call it, but it's in the Bible, I am that. And it's a beautiful statement. And that's why we have to be so careful with the way that we finish that statement. Because you have you have Krishna consciousness, you have godlike consciousness, you have the universal mind. So why limit it? And then the last one that wasn't on my first list, I didn't have it on there, but it's blaming. So blaming is the 7th mind trap. This is holding others responsible for our own pain. Man, you guys, here's the deal with blaming. It's not an easy lesson, and I'm learning it. through we all are, but taking 100% responsibility for your life. That things don't happen to you, they happen for you. That there is no need to blame. That person that you're holding on that resentment to, that you feel like they did that thing to you, you're the only one that suffers. You are the one that swallows the poison over and over and expects them to hurt. And until we can see that and flip that, we suffer. And blaming will do that. It's probably, in my opinion, humbly, the biggest one, because it leads us down the rabbit hole of every other one that has come before this statement. Holding others responsible for our pain, for others' pain. It blame, resentment, guilt, shame, codependence. This plays out big in relationship codependence, and control, which leads to anxiety and stress. Because if we haven't learned that this year, that we have very little control, and I know that I got the, just to say one little thing about like the way that I moved through the last few months, I was a little bit of a rebel. I have a lot to say, but it's not, I really want to make clear that I don't believe that anybody is wrong, and that I don't blame anybody for the situation that I'm in here at the studio, and that I don't even blame, I won't even say his name, but somebody up in Sacramento. I don't blame him. That's been a hard one. But, the reality is that a human, compassion, heart, love, pink light, because we can sit and bitch and moan all day and complain, but it's not going to get us anywhere. And so it's that relinquishing of control that actually ends up relinquishing us, relieving us of anxiety and like deep stress. So, and then the solutions for blaming are, like I said, taking responsibility for everything in our life. My favorite story about that is not my own. It's Wayne Dyer's, and his father left his mother and his brother in a very, very like tumultuous time in the world. And Wayne's mom didn't have enough to even keep him. So they were passed along to an orphanage, and he was raised in other households, and his dad was a raging alcoholic. And so he went through his life hating him. He blamed him for every sour thing that ever happened in his life. And he had a kind of a spiritual awakening, which was just one little crack of light that led him to a next right action, which was a writing, because he's a writer. And through that led him to, he was like driving to go to like piss on his father's grave. And he had through a series of divine interventions, and spiritual ahas, he ended up not only forgiving him, but like having the most beautiful healing with the spirit. And only because he was able to release that blame and that shame and go in only with love and light, which is not easy. It's really hard, but it's enlightening, and it's that satori, it's that flash in the pan, you guys. And the funny that Ram Dass says is like, if you think you're enlightened, like go home and spend the holidays with your family. And I think about that because we're coming up on that, you guys. And with all of that said, this is why my trainings are like, I have a lot to say, as you can tell. And I want to encourage you, because I'm going to do this twice a week, and I'm going to encourage you to hop on. And if you can't make it, you can message us and we'll send you the recording. But flood your brain right now, you guys, with positive. Okay. And I don't have to be the one. Like, it's not about that. But what I love is that we didn't talk about the studio closing. We're not talking about fucking purple or red or whatever color we're in, and who knows what. We're talking about how we can be better, how we can take all that we have been given, the gifts of 2020, and move forward into a beautiful future together, because we're better together than we are apart. We're more alike than we are separate. We're moving from there's a lot of loneliness in the world right now, but please remember that you are never alone. You're never alone. And I know it's hard to remember that when it feels that way, but you're not alone. And hey, Matthew, can you mute your phone? I think you're on.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
I'm
great.
sorry. I thought.
Hi, I miss you. It's great to see your face. Yeah, it's okay. Don't be sorry. So, and just, you know, that's my like, just my loving words to you guys is to work on your mind chatter, to hold space for yourself, to forgive, and the best of your ability. That always starts from the light within. It's an inside job, you know, this work, and that you are, your life is a beautiful, like, blank canvas right now. So much has been stripped away, and visualize that. Because Maggie, it's so good to see you. I just want to like, I'm like the whole time been watching. I miss you so much. Like, I think of Maggie as an artist, and like it's that blank canvas of what we can create, you know. And oh my God, Annette, hi, oh my gosh, hi, it's so good to see your face. Oh babe. And you know, Michael, I love you. It's so good to see you. And Carly, I see that you're on there. Mandy, and so many other people have just we're on. Liz, I love you. Mike, I feel blessed. And just you guys, we have so much support in this community, and we're gonna emerge. Okay, we're gonna, not only are we gonna make it through, we're gonna thrive. It's not gonna be easy. 2020, she's not done yet. This is coming from the star talk. Just hold tight. Okay, and whatever practice you're doing right now, whether it's this, because this is a what's called a satsang, it's a gathering, and this is a beautiful layer of yoga. This is the Jnana yoga, the yoga of the mind, and this is really important. But if you're practicing at home, you know, tune into the classes that are whatever it is, whatever you're doing, go for walks, whatever, however you're taking care of yourself, don't stop. Self-care, number one, and you know, because you can't pour from that empty glass, and a lot of people are needing things from you right now. So, you know, we want to be able to give more, but we can't give more if we're empty. This means a lot to me, you guys, that you popped on here and that you listened and that you are open to these crazy concepts. And I really wanted to try not to cuss, but you know, you love me. This is who I am. And so I apologize if there's little ears that were around, you know, and I just, at the same time, I'm just grateful for the authenticity of our connection, the integrity of our friendship, and that none of us is going anywhere. Okay, so remember to reach out if you need anything at all. And I'll be back on Monday at the same time. So Monday and Friday, okay? I love you guys so much. You're amazing. I'm gonna go teach a fusion class if you feel inspired at 4 o'clock. But if not, you guys have a beautiful afternoon, a lovely weekend. Take good care of yourself, and feel free to email in with, or text or whatever, how you wanna get in touch with me, with things you wanna hear about or questions you have or feelings, like things that you want me to speak about or whatever it is, feedback. Just reach out, okay? Because it's really amazing for me to hear from you guys too. Okay, thank you. I love you guys.
All right.
Have a blessed evening.